Hello, I'm Roger Casale from New Europeans, and we have a wonderful panel of guests with us today from all over Europe who are going to help us answer the question, what should the EU say to the UK when Britain comes knocking again on the EU's door? First, let me introduce our panel. Dimitris.
Hello, my name is Dimitris Ballas. I'm based in Groningen in the north of the Netherlands. I'm originally from Greece. I was born in Athens and my hometown is Thessaloniki. And I have lived for many years in England, in Leeds and Sheffield. So I'd like to joke that I have an English, Greek Yorkshire accent. And I've also spent some time in Austria, Japan, and the United States on visiting positions in the context of my academic career. So I very much look forward to the discussion. Thank you for having me.
Lene.
Yeah, I'm Lene Andersen. I'm in Copenhagen, Denmark. I grew up here, but I also spent some time in the United States, and that's where I discovered that I was European. I'm an economist. I'm a futurist. I'm also a member of the Club of Rome, and I'm a writer. So that's what I do.
Dimitry.
I'm a professor of EU law, and originally I'm Soviet, but the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. So I do what I do in the Netherlands. And I was also circulating around the world, mostly writing critique of contemporary citizenship. So my latest book is Citizenship with MIT Press, 2019.
Maria.
Hello, I'm Maria Spirova. I'm a Bulgarian immigrant. I live in Oxford, the UK. I'm a journalist and a writer. And I am guiltily and proudly European.
Rupert.
Hello, I'm a British immigrant living in Budapest. I lived in Poland, I lived in Russia, I lived in Ireland. I'm a big European. I used to work in media, and I'm now aspiring to be a very old stand-up comedian.
Olivier.
Yes, bonjour. I live in Kiev. I am French, journalist, TV anchor, professor. Member of the Russian opposition because of some Russian roots, and also I was active during the Euromaidan revolution in Ukraine.
Ursula von der Leyen said it had been a long and winding road to the agreement, but we know that the long and winding road continues. And the thing about long and winding roads is that they sometimes turn back on themselves and come back to where you started. So let's imagine that sometime in the future, Britain does return to the EU and does knock on the EU's door, tries to rejoin the European Union. Obviously, there need to be talks, some kind of conversation. Hello, come in, have a cup of tea. And then the serious discussion would get started, or perhaps a cup of coffee. And then the serious discussion would get started. And I just wonder, when those negotiations do occur, where do you think there'd be a good location for them to take place? I'm not sure that they would want to have them in London or in Brussels. They'd probably want to go somewhere else for a change, just for a change. Where do you think would be an appropriate place for the talks for Britain to rejoin the European Union to be located? Lena?
Stonehenge.
Yeah. Why'd you say that? Lots of sheep in Stonehenge.
Sheep, seagulls, I don't know. They would get some fresh air, and it's on the British Isles, and I think the EU should be very open-minded, friendly, welcoming, and be willing to do the first piece of traveling towards a new agreement or brotherhood on the continent.
Very kind gesture. The British would be in their comfort zone. Dimitris, what about you?
I would say Hastings.
Oh, Hastings.
So my answer is influenced by one of the first experiences I had in England as a master's student in geographical information systems quite a long time ago. And we had this 24-hour computer lab, where all master's students could access, but I didn't know the code. And one of my housemates was English, and I asked him what the code was. He was also a course mate, and he said, well, it's the year of the Battle of the Hastings. And I said, when was that? He said, what, you don't know when the Battle of the Hastings was? So at that point, I realized how important that date is. So perhaps that could be an appropriate venue, also for the same reasons that Lene pointed out. For Stonehenge is also nice, but I think it has a nice. It's on the border between just on the channel, and I have some interesting thoughts about what kind of food they might have as well, inspired by that.
We'll certainly come to that. When you mentioned Hastings, I thought for a moment you were talking about the very nice language schools there, but in fact you were referring to...
No, the Battle of Hastings. And maybe, I hope it's going to be before 2066. So it could be 2066, the Treaty of Hastings, but hopefully it will be before then. So
1000th anniversary would be great, but it's before then, as you say. Rupert, where should the talks take place?
Well, we're going back sort of 50 years in time, aren't we? And I think the big remembrance of, us not being the European Union was a cross-channel duty-free ferry between Dover and Calais. Somewhere in the middle where the fish haven't worked out whether they're English or French or not. Because I think, there's a big problem at the moment is that, some fish declare themselves as English, and apparently 15% more of these mackerel are now going to be English. So I think we need to be right bang in where the fishing is kind of still controversial on a duty-free ferry, because that's one of the few benefits that us Brits are going to get from leaving the EU, is being able to get 200 fags and a £5 bottle of whiskey. So I think, it's a perfect place to take us back to 1974.
It's a great idea, because before British government decided to put gunboats in the channel to protect the fish, they offered a license for civilian boats to monitor the fish and the fishermen and the fishing ships. And of course, they gave that license to the French. So I think having the talks in the middle of the channel would I think that would work. Maria, what do you think?
It should be the rocks of Gibraltar. One problem I had with the negotiations, the way they developed this time around, is they took so blooming long because everybody was way too comfortable. They need to be somewhere exposed to the elements. They don't need to be sitting down. They need to be buffeted by winds, washed down by rains. Absolutely no refreshments. Chop, chop, people. We need to get back into Europe as soon as possible. We don't have 4 years of discussions ahead of us. This time around, these people need to be cold, miserable, and willing to go home at the first opportunity. So they're going to agree everything very quickly. That would be my best guess.
There must be a role for the monkeys there as well.
Yeah, the baboons.
Done.
And would Gibraltar be part of the negotiations?
Sorry?
Would Gibraltar have to be part of the negotiations, or would that have to be settled beforehand?
I think Gibraltar should just, decide what it wants to do and say, look, people, we're hosting you. And that's, as far along as we're going to get with this. You're going to let us do what we want because sovereignty.
We could give them a choice maybe between Ascension Island and Gibraltar, or the Falklands and Gibraltar. They probably, if we narrow the choice down to that, then I think we've got a good chance of it being Gibraltar. Dimitri, where would you like them to meet?
It might be terribly boring and wear a lawyer's hat.
Yeah.
There are no negotiations, in fact, when someone wants to join. There are conditions which are sent to you by the European Union. The UK will not play any role in picking the place, and the UK will not play any role in actually negotiating anything. The UK will have to be treated exactly the same way as any other member state which is about to accede to the union as it stands today. So there will be no derogations from the acquis, and no difference between the UK on the one hand and Bulgaria, Croatia, Romania, whoever you want on the other. Which means that whoever is in charge of the UK at that moment goes to Brussels on Eurostar, and then listens to what the conditions are. Full stop. There is simply no other legal way.
So it has to be in Brussels, and Britain has to realise that it's got to join the back of the queue or the line or whatever we want to call it.
Well, there is no line, because I think that nobody will put the UK behind Montenegro or behind Kosovo, which is not even a state for many. So obviously Kosovo will remain behind, but somewhere in between.
So you're a lawyer, but you're a kind lawyer. Britain can doesn't have to stand behind Montenegro in the queue. Olivier, where should they have the negotiation? The Dimitri says there's no choice, but imagine there was a choice. Where would you as a political scientist and based in Ukraine, but also with French blood in you as well as Russian, where would you get them to? Where would you get them to meet?
For sure, not in Novosibirsk, but but really, you have a big sense of humor to ask to a Frenchman how he
very brave decision to ask
the comeback of UK. I think first of all, UK will not exist when Britain will want to come back. I think I propose Edinburgh will be the new capital of Scotland. And I think our Scottish friends will show to the Brits how to come back in EU, because I'm sure that Scotland will be independent, and I think very quickly, and that we will not have to accept UK again, but only Britain and Wales. And I think also the North Ireland will not also be part of UK very quickly. Then I think this is the end of UK. We cannot say the comeback of UK in the EU, but because the UK will not exist anymore very quickly.
It's a good job they've abolished the death penalty, because
and you know, this is a French dream. You cannot imagine.
Yeah, well, no, I totally agree with you. I mean, it's a good job they've abolished the death penalty, because the last time that was tried, Mary Queen of Scots lost her head.
Yes.
So Edinburgh is your choice. So
actually, I just realized there might be another opportunity that I hadn't thought of.
Yes, go ahead.
Which isn't Donald Trump leaving behind a vacant golf resort somewhere? I mean,
yes, and in fact, bits of the turf are being sold off, I think, aren't they, Olivier? And people can buy a square meter of Scottish ground, and they get a title with it as well, isn't that right? But so yes, we can. Let's hope that Donald Trump sells his golf course, that we can buy a piece of it, that we can inherit a title, and gradually bring Scotland, the whole of Scotland, not just Donald Trump's golf course, back into the European Union. A lot of time will be spent on deciding where will be saved about deciding where they're going to meet, because as Dimitri reminded us, he is a lawyer, and therefore there's only one answer to that question, which will have to be Brussels. So they will have to knock on the EU store in Brussels, and they will have to stay in Brussels for the talks. But Dimitri also reminded us that there will be conditions on Britain joining the European Union again. And I wonder what our panel think those conditions might be. Dimitri, why don't we start with you? You'll perhaps just remind us of the long list of conditions. I think we know about the standard list, but is there any sort of extra special things that you would add to it just because it's the UK?
I loved Maria's suggestion. Let's make them stand, let's make them be exposed to the elements. But unfortunately, even the first time round when the UK was joining, it took more than 10 years if we count all the transitional periods. So most likely the re-accession negotiations will take in practice much longer than the leave negotiations. We still don't know under which conditions exactly the UK left, because there are plenty of empty tails there. So a lot of will need to be negotiated on top, still in addition to the agreement that we have. But then once the UK wants to rejoin, the standard condition is you accept our law, either you're a member of the club or not. So the UK could deviate from it as a member only because it was co-shaping it. And as you co-shape the law, then you can of course create special conditions for yourself. When you rejoin the club and the condition is please be one of us, and here are our rules, you cannot co-shape the rules anymore. And in fact, this is why Le Général, the great de Gaulle, first time round blocked UK's accession. The UK delegation came to the EU, what was then the EEC, and they tried to renegotiate what was the law already. And this was not possible. It will not be possible this time round either. So when the UK comes, the UK will have to accept everything, the euro, the Schengen, and be a full member of the European Union. Otherwise, there will be most likely no conversation. Otherwise, it will be some other kind of relationship. What Theresa May and others didn't want to negotiate, but had an opportunity to do so.
The words of General de Gaulle echo through into the 21st century, and much of them ring true today. But perhaps your condition could be that the British should try to do everything they can to make sure that the talks to rejoin do not last longer than the talks to leave, although, as you've told us, that's probably unlikely to be a condition that they would be able to meet. Maria, what you were mentioned in that exchange. Well, tell us more about what you think the British should be made to do before they can rejoin the European Union.
Things. I think a precondition to starting negotiations would be all British leaders to finally comb their hair. I think that nothing to a European sensibility than a sort of a seagull's nest wearing person coming to town, and I think this should not be allowed. The same goes for leopard patterned shoes, another very upsetting thing from a continental perspective. So I think, you know, British delegates should really just accept some basic standards of decorum here. Another thing would be, so, you know, I'm a Bulgarian immigrant, when, you know, I submit my CV somewhere, a very standard question is, but can you pick raspberries? So I think when they rejoin, the Brits should worth to the EU by proving that most of the population can pick, truffles better than pigs in France and various other crops in various other European countries, so that we are reassured that they would be useful people. And finally, to pick up on a suggestion made by a wonderful panelist here, I think we should let the fish self-identify. We should let the fish in the channel vote whether they want to be French or British, and whether they actually want to be caught under, the aegis of the EU. Maybe they want to actually be left a little bit like Gibraltar, to come back to that. There are many things to be resolved, but I really would like to be reassured that, British people are useful people to the European Union, because, I've spent about 10 years in this country explaining to people why I am useful and why British oxygen in fact worth coming into my lungs. So I would like a little bit of that to be part of the negotiation too.
From what I know of the fish in the channel, they'll be very much looking forward to that conversation. And as I understand it, you want the British not only to have a box to tick on the form to say that they can pick raspberries, you want to actually see them do it. You're not just going to take it at their word. And I think that's very reasonable. Rupert, you are British, but you may want to go hard on them.
Well, I think we've got to confirm all the things that all the Brexiters were really frightened of for sort of 30 years, from awful tabloid newspapers and things written by Boris Johnson. So I think the first thing that would really be a very, very good criteria is we have to put Barnier and van der Leyen on our pound notes instead of the Queen and Charles Dickens, just to remind us that we are properly European. And you will never, ever be served in a pub if you ask for a pint anymore, because we're going to be absolutely forced to go and order half litres of beer that were complete, so that just to remind us that if we're going to be in Europe, we've got to be properly European. None of this feet and inches. I think our national anthem should be exchanged with Ode to Joy, of course. So we should have that at all football matches and cricket matches. At Lords, we should be playing Boule, I think, just to go and prove that we've properly integrated and accepted European standards. But generally, just follow all the things that Boris Johnson said the European Union was stupid for when he was a journalist for the Telegraph 25 years ago.
Yeah, it forces us to eat straight bananas. Dimitris, what do you think the conditions should be?
Yeah, thanks. I don't really have that much to add. I agree that there should be the same rules as everybody else. But also perhaps we should put emphasis on making sure that the British people are aware of the benefits of Europe. So unlike what happened in the build-up to the Brexit referendum. There should be a very strong campaign by the British and also the EU to highlight that these issues, but what EU is a force for good, and it should be the ideals and values of the European Union are actually also British values, and a lot of them, the founding ideals are there because of the British, and that's something that was not properly advertised or publicized in the build-up to the referendum. And I would like the EU to support what I think would be a very strong and enthusiastic body of young and maybe not so young Europeans, like remembering from my students at the University of Sheffield how upset they were when in the year of the referendum. So I took them to Greece on a field trip 2 months before the referendum, and they were all very, very lively about Europe and very upset about the possibility of Brexit, which did happen. So these young people will be the leaders of Britain. And so I don't think we'll need to try, hopefully we won't need to try hard to convince them to accept the rules, because I think they will want to respect all these rules we're discussing. But I think it's key to highlight what the benefits are and also make sure that people realize that these are also their values.
Yeah, get the British to look in the mirror and remind them of themselves. And perhaps one might also insist that every British citizen should sit the British citizenship test. Send them a free copy of the book. Olivier, I have a Dutch friend who can't join us, called Patrick, who every time I have this conversation with him, he says, the one thing we have to do is make sure that the British eat more garlic. What would be your? But that's a bit of a stereotype, isn't it, about the French? What would your view be, Olivier? Would you let the British back? You're French. I mean, would you let the British? Would you even consider letting the British back?
I am French.
So what would be your condition?
I am French with Russian roots, and I think France and Russia really don't like the British at all. This is our best enemy. This is our story.
You don't like,
but me, first of all, I insist again. I think UK in the future, UK will disappear, and I think Scotland will be independent. Then we have to speak about the comeback of Britain and Wales only in EU. Then for me, they will have no choice. They will have to sign everything we will propose.
Yeah,
for sure.
What will you propose? What will be your? What would you put on
to be really a member of the European Union, to accept Schengen, to accept the Eurozone, to accept everything, and stop to be the British exception in the treaty. Remember, in the Treaty of Lisbon, we did a lot of exception for UK. For what? What is the result now? Then no exception. They will have to vote for everything we will propose. They will have to accept everything. Now I will have maybe a sense of humor. I think they will have also to accept the French cuisine, and also maybe borscht, because I really like borscht, like a national soup of UK. Also, we have a nice soup in Russia with ukra. Ukra is a soup of fishes, and you don't have to know if the fish is French or Russian or British. This is a nice soup of fish, ukra. Then they can also adopt ukra, and that will solve the border between French and British fish.
I think so long as we can have chips with it, it'll be fine. Lene, thank you. What should the conditions be?
Oh, there are two. First of all, they stole the Danish Navy in 1807, and we would like to have it back. It can be the new Navy, that's okay. It's just like we're short of one Navy. So that would be I think the Danish precondition. And then there's the European one, because we're all speaking their language. So they should be speaking ours. So all British should learn to speak at least French and German. That's it.
Yeah, that'll take time, won't it? And
not longer than the negotiations.
Yeah,
I agree, because during centuries, the English aristocracy spoke French, not English.
Well,
not English.
I mean, it's not enough that the prime minister can recite the entire Iliad in classical Greek. I'm talking about, bilingualism, trilingualism throughout the population, and we should have that in the rest of Europe as well, by the way.
I agree.
Oh, I didn't know that about the current cabinet. They probably claim that. I think.
No, it's on YouTube. It's actually very entertaining,
Yeah,
even if you don't understand classical Greek.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you very much for signposting that. But yes, we need living languages, and we need people to like the French and speak German and do lots of other things as well. And there's a very strong Remain movement still in the European, in Britain, very strong European movement that identifies with Europe, and that will be very keen to, when the day comes, to make sure that there is plenty of enthusiasm for Britain rejoining the European Union, also from the UK side. And we hope it's there from the other side of the channel too. And we can get to work on the list of things that our panel have told us that will be the requirements, in addition to, as Dimitry reminded us, to the legal requirements that they will have to meet, the intercultural and political, social, economic and requirements, as well as the humorous ones, the bars that they will have to clear before Britain can rejoin. And of course, these talks will take a long time, time that the British, as Lene told us, can use to learn French and German. But they will also need to be well looked after, fed and watered during this period. And you know, these negotiations were very last minute, just before Christmas Eve, and pizza boxes were being ordered into the Berlaymont. Hopefully next time things can be a little bit more relaxed and they will have time to have proper meals, 3 meals a day. And I wonder what one of those meals should be. I wonder what people should eat. Often people say solidarity works through food, bringing people together to break bread, to eat together and so on is a great way to build solidarity. But that's fine, so long as people like to eat the same thing. What do you think should be on the menu? Rupert, let's start with you.
Well, I did a pitch about 3 years ago for McVitie's Digestive Biscuits, actually, right in the middle of all the Brexit talks. And I sat there and thought, this is the most boring biscuit in the world and represents British food before we joined the European Union. And I thought to myself, well, actually, you know, every boring meeting you ever go to where no one agrees on a thing, you have digestive biscuits. And I used to have had this idea that there would be, you know, all these ads everywhere where there would be these incredibly bad meetings. Underneath it would say, but at least they all agree the biscuits taste nice. And I think digestive biscuits are kind of, to anyone who's British and was born in the 60s, like me and you, Roger, digestive biscuits are what food was like in 1973. And I think, you know, it's boring, bland, and we'll get them talking.
So instead of offering them cake, we will say, let them eat biscuits.
Yes.
And that's what they will do. Maria.
Oh, you know, I think the British should eat crow, to be honest. But once they're done with that appetizer, I have a suggestion for sort of a pan-European feast of every nation's most awful food. Just like thing like haggis, like Bulgarian blood sausage, like the stinkiest French cheese.
I love haggis.
People don't have any awful food. Greek cuisine is the best. I think you should sit the but I think that this is the way to form solidarity, because we're all exchanging these, you know, jabs about we're better than you, we're better than you. Oh, look at us, we've done this, we've done that, and what you have done is so awful. No, we should prove to each other that we fail miserably, you know, each and every one of us, that each and every one of us has a bad side to them. Look, we all have these ridiculous traditional foods that are absolutely awful. Aren't we awful together? We are equal in our awfulness. This, I think, is a moment that we all miss, that we all have our ups and we all have our downs, and that we should laugh over it and be like, we're in this together for the good, but also for the bad.
So we could say, when it comes to food, you're allowed to have a race to the bottom. Dimitri, what would you put on the menu?
I think it's important never to forget the drink. So
Yeah.
let's focus on the wines and the vodkas and all the other things wonderful of this world. And here there is a cautionary tale coming from within the European Union. At the European Council, there is this tradition that they serve the best wines of the country presiding in the council at the moment. And then everybody's looking in horror at the coming Estonian presidency or Slovak presidency. So it's absolutely an objective truth that not every nation, at least as far as drinks go, can compete with others. And that's the force of united in diversity. Those who prefer horrible things can stick to those, and then those who prefer better things can go across the border and buy whatever they want. Unlike the Brexit world, where the border is sealed and buying that easily is not as accessible.
So are you about to tell us that English wine should be on the menu?
Sparkling, probably.
All right. Olivier, we're going to have English wine. We're going to have offal from Bulgaria. We're going to have McVitie's biscuits. Anything you'd like to add?
You know,
in terms of what we should eat?
I don't want to be, chauvinist, but I think the food is the best. Then I have nothing to add. Then, and I think, yes, really, you have no cook in UK. It's simple, you know. I think they have only whiskey, and whiskey is from Scotland. Then what they have, you know, it's then I think they have to adopt the French cuisine if they want to survive. Then yeah, but really I have nothing to add. You know, if you speak about UK gastronomy, which gastronomy?
Well, you make its point about the British. Of course, the British didn't have the advantage that the French had of having Caterina Medici come and visit them from Florence.
Yes, no. It's great. You know,
it's another point.
Chance to have the mix between Italian, Spanish, Belgium. This is France. You know, we take a lot of things from everywhere, and we did our cuisine with that. But the British they were very isolated historically and geographically. That's why they only have potatoes and fish and what.
Yeah, being French, I thought you were going to say it doesn't matter what they eat so long as they eat it with a knife and fork. Dimitris, what should we have on the menu?
Yeah, I would go back to my suggestion for a venue in Hastings. I've never been there, but I suppose there would be some nice traditional English pub. So I would go for fish and chips, but there should be a ceremony with fishermen from all over Europe, well, Portugal, Spain, France, all the countries that fish in these disputed waters, but also symbolically maybe have Greeks, Italians, and every country that has fishermen, send them and all fish together and bring the fresh fish and have a feast of fish and chips and moosey peas, as I would say in Yorkshire, and maybe some real ale, because that's one of the strengths, to go back to what Dimitri said about drinks. I think the English could do that, and maybe not English wine, but some nice beer, English beer, real ale, and what they have a comparative advantage at. Yeah.
Cold or warm? Warm or cold?
Well, probably warm, considering, but yeah, it grows on you. It's
full of fish. Yeah, we could have a fry-up breakfast, fish and chips for lunch, chicken tikka masala for
and haggis. I like haggis, by the way, Maria. So I don't think that's a horrible food.
What's down with an English ale? Lene, what's not to like? What are we missing?
No, we're not. I mean, I absolutely love everything, and particularly Maria's idea about getting the worst from everywhere, and then we should let the British prepare it and overcook it. So.
I think on that note, let the British prepare the food, and let the lawyers prepare the list of conditions, and let the Europeans come together.
Maybe we can do a T-shirt, Roger, a new European T-shirt with all these mottos.
Absolutely, and let the Europeans come together sometime in the future to break bread, keep talking, and remember that whatever happens on this sad day when we lose freedom of movement, we're all going to laugh together, talk together, and stay friends. Thank you very much indeed to our panel, Dimitris, Lene, Dimitry, Maria, Rupert, and Olivier. And looking to the future, let's meet again soon. and enjoy each other's company as we've done today. Thank you very much indeed, and goodbye.
Au revoir.
Bye.
Bye.